Hey everybody, we're going to do a segment that we haven't done for a while. We're going to post it on our YouTube and maybe we'll post on the SoundCloud as well, and that is a 5 count. I am here with Brandon. Brandon, what is our 5 count for today?
Well, the first one we're going to do here is 5 ways that WWE can book Samoa Joe when he comes up from NXT. So, first one we've got is he can be the leader of the club for Monday Night Raw. Basically, AJ Styles went over to SmackDown, so the club have kind of been teeter-tottering there with New Day and, boring us all to death, basically. They've got no real direction other than they're trying to match, like, the comedy stuff. So I think Samoa Joe kind of brings that quality of, he just doesn't mess around, kind of that aggression that I think kind of can turn their characters around. What do you think about him coming up and possibly taking a leadership role there?
Yeah, you're right. He's just incredibly intense and he's incredibly focused. We see on his storyline that, he asked Finn Balor for a championship match, and when he didn't get it, he turned heel, so he got it. So, he had a clear agenda in mind, which is to become the NXT champion. He became it, and throughout the whole process, there was an intensity and a focus on becoming that. So I think he could channel that intensity into the New Day and maybe go for something on his own singles career elsewhere while he's doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So number 2 we had is he could go to SmackDown and do what a lot of people from NXT or that coming from outside the WWE, which is having an early feud with John Cena. Do you like a feud with John Cena for Samoa Joe?
I think it could bring some validation to his character in some ways, but at the same time, I think that people should know who he is already. He's one of those guys that I could have seen just go right to the main roster from the get-go. But I think anything with John Cena kind of solidifies your character for those who just may not know who you are. So I don't necessarily think that a title needs to be involved. If you do that, I don't think Cena needs to be a champion of any kind. But, if he goes out and just lays out John Cena his first night, it's very similar to how Kevin Owens came in. So I think that can, definitely have an impact on his character for people that don't know who he is. But I don't necessarily think it's necessary for him to do that. But that is a way that they could bring him up and, validate who he is. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I would say not only Kevin Owens, but I know it wasn't his first feud, but it really solidified AJ Styles as a top heel, having that as his first feud as a heel.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and also just the fact that, he was kind of in a wandering mode as a face, and they didn't really have any plans. He was in that really awkward mid-card thing with Roman Reigns where he wasn't a bad guy, he wasn't a good guy, and it really just that solidified him as a top heel. So when you have a direction that you want to go forward, especially as a heel, using it on John Cena is a good way to kind of thrust you forward.
Yeah, for sure. So number 3, have him debut in a Survivor Series kind of match or the Royal Rumble. So my pick on these two would be the Royal Rumble, just kind of a surprise entry, similar to what AJ Styles did when he first came in. But, AJ Styles was a surprise because he was a free agent. So I think, Samoa Joe would be one of those people that they can kind of talk up and talk about his NXT history here, as he's the NXT champion or former champion at this point. He's got some history there with WWE now that they can kind of talk about. And, he's similar where he's wrestled different places, so they can talk about his past and stuff too. So how do you think that would benefit him if he came in one of those matches?
Yeah, so I think you've already nailed the point on the Royal Rumble. My case for Survivor Series is that Royal Rumble is 4 months away, and there's not a lot for Samoa Joe left to do down in NXT. He's already lost his championship. He's not going to regain it. Survivor Series, in like 1-2 months?
Yeah, I think so.
Having him come in as a unannounced member and they leave it as a surprise kind of gives him a big impact feel, not only just for whatever brand he's going to debut on, but just as it's a way of just building him and solidifying him into a brand, which that brand can use to thrust his momentum, sort of like they tried to redo with Ryback, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
They're like, oh, Ryback's the guy who's going to shift the tides. They can do that with Samoa Joe, but they can actually book it smart. And if that's the case, hopefully it's on SmackDown, because they'll book him better than Raw does.
Yeah, for sure. He'll actually have a storyline at that point. So,
Yeah.
the number 4 will be the IC title on SmackDown or US on Raw. Just put him in kind of a title picture right off the bat. Not necessarily the heavyweight championship on either brand, but kind of that instant impact to take a title away and let us know who he is. So, how do you think that starting him off with a mid card title would help him?
Yeah, if Roman Reigns gets him off, like if Roman Reigns wins the title, which we all expect him to do,
right?
Yeah, that's a great feud for him because Samoa Joe is good on the mic. Then there's also this kind of Samoan dynamic there, like a Samoan versus Samoan.
Mm-hmm.
That could be interesting. But if Ziggler ends up taking the title on SmackDown, then that's also a good feud because the matches those two would have would be unreal.
Yeah, he's definitely legitimate as far as any kind of title picture goes right off the bat. So I think that they can't really go wrong throwing him in that title picture, regardless of which show he goes to. So what do we have for the last one here?
The last one is that he joins Triple H in an NXT faction. So we saw that Triple H came out and supported Kevin Owens, and he's basically now, I guess, Kevin Owens' mentor, according to Raw tonight. One of the things that they could do forward is that Triple H could start an NXT faction, and basically his way of hijacking Raw is to basically say that they haven't been doing it right, and NXT is the way of the future, and Samoa Joe could be a part of that. Do you agree with that analysis?
Yeah, I think I've kind of talked about it for a while, on our podcast and stuff like that, that I think that was kind of the plan from the get-go. Like it could be a possibility that Triple H would kind of split off and kind of do his own thing on Raw. Like I thought there was a very real possibility of like an NXT versus Raw before they did the brand split. So I think that that would be a legitimate, almost like a new breed kind of thing. Like if Kevin Owens is the champion, if Samoa Joe came out as a surprise and won the United States Championship against Roman Reigns, maybe even without help, just wins, and then somebody of importance has the tag team champions. It's almost like the evolution kind of thing, but you have to call it something different, so like all the championships are in one faction and you've got Triple H like backing them as like the manager or whatever. So I think that's a very real possibility, and I think it would be awesome, if they tell the story right, that is. So which Raw kind of struggles with, but I think that is that's something that I would like to see, out of all the possibilities that we have here, that would excite me the most as a fan. So what do you think of the possibility? Like, who else would join that?
Something I would love to see Sami Zayn. I would love to see Neville.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see even Cesaro. He had a nice run. Even awkwardly, maybe even Biggie Langston, if Biggie Langston decides to separate himself at that moment. Like, I think that would be kind of cool if that's a way of individuating himself away from the New Day.
Yep, or having one of the women's wrestlers in there too. Change it up a little bit and change the way that we've seen factions for forever, basically.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But you could actually make Nia Jax into a Chyna-like figure then, as the female member who can just kick anybody's butt.
Sure, yeah. So that's our 5 ideas for the introduction of Samoa Joe on the main roster. Let us know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.